I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, the Fed, this guy Powell, just announced yesterday, he's going to raise interest rates again. Again. So what that's going to do is Andy Schectman says this is called a 3 times crash. All paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs crash. Real estate's going to crash. And this is going to crash, the US dollar. What's happening is that, so the BRICS nation are coming, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now Saudi Arabia coming after us. What's happening is that in 2017, the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, made gold tier one asset. See, up until then, the US Treasury was tier one assets. So the whole world is filled with US treasuries and bonds. I don't like treasuries and bonds, and because they're fake. So what's going to happen is when they keep raising interest rates, those treasuries, they're becoming worthless. Let's say you have a treasury at 5% or a bond at 5%, and the interest rates go to 10%, it's going to collapse the system. So like Japan, which has had quantitative easing for years and years and years and years now, is filled with US treasuries. So is China. So is the Fed. And so what just started to happen, 2017 again, there was a reverse repo. And a reverse repo was what happened just before 2008 in America. And a reverse repo is very simply this, is what happens is the Fed will give money to, let's say, a tier one bank, like let's say Bank of America. And a reverse repo is this. So if a Fed gives money to Bank of America, that's called a repo. So they're backing up Bank of America. A reverse repo is Bank of America and all the tier one banks give it back to the Fed. They don't want the money. They don't want the bond. And it's not they don't want the bond. When they give the money, when the bank, let's say Bank of America, gives the money back to the Fed, that's saying we don't want to lend money anymore because it's an indictment. Andy Schectman says this. He says it's an indictment of the US economy. We're going down. Now, if that goes down and they keep raising interest rates, all those bonds will crash because, who wants a 5% bond when you can get a 10% bond? And the rumor is, this is according to Andy Schectman, a long shot is this: Japan may join the BRICS, Brazil, India. And what will happen is then instead of a bailout, bailout's what happened with Lehman Brothers in 2008. And so the taxpayer gave money to Lehman Brothers. What will happen is this: there'll be a bail-in, which happened in Cyprus in 2008, is Bank of America, when they give all those treasuries back or the bonds back to the Fed, people will run on Bank of America, and Bank of America will say, our door is shut because there's a run on the bank. But guess what? Instead of your cash or your savings, we'll give you back stock in Bank of America. That's a bail-in. Now, I hope it doesn't happen, but that's what I was writing about. So as you know, I'm a huge gold, silver nut, and I would rather have silver right now, which is the biggest bargain in world history today. It's, real estate was my generation's investment because it was debt. For your generation, it's silver, because right today in America, it's cost me $30 to buy a silver eagle. This stuff is trash. This is trash here. Cash is trash. So that's a bail-in, bail-out. That's what happens. You have a repo and a reverse repo. So the reverse repo is the banks are giving back the money to the Fed. We don't want it. I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, the Fed, this guy Powell, just announced yesterday, he's going to raise interest rates again. So what that's going to do is Andy Schectman says this is called a 3 times crash. All paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs crash. Real estate's going to crash. And this is going to crash, the US dollar. I own Bitcoin, but I took Bitcoin as a technical trade. It went up to 20,000 a while ago and then dropped. When it dropped, I bought it. But right now, I don't know. Just yesterday, a crypto bank crashed. I don't even know that. Silvergate crashed. So everything is coming down. I was begging people, especially your generation, you got to change your thinking. Get rid of that mantra, go to school, get a job, work hard. Buy stocks and bonds. save cash. 3 times. Andy Schectman, the smartest guy I know, a 3 times crash is coming. First of all paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. Second, real estate. Third, and I've always said cash is trash. I hope I'm wrong. Our debt to GDP, in 2008 wasn't that bad. But then after when it crashed, then Bernanke started printing, they call it quantitative easing. It's printing money. And so that's why in 2013, I wrote the book, Rich Dad's Prophecy, to warn people that the crash was going to get bigger. In 2013, I wrote that book, and it's going to get bigger because the debt to GDP, as most people know, is 130 debt to GDP. It's the biggest in world history. Our debt is through the roof, and Powell is raising interest rates, which makes that debt more expensive. I mean, you don't have to go to school to know that one. I don't touch paper assets. I don't touch stocks, bonds. I wouldn't buy an Exxon stock. I wouldn't buy Standard Oil stock or Chevron, whatever they call it now. I buy the physical oil. And my oil wells are in Dakota, North Dakota, Louisiana, and Texas. When Biden took office, his first act was to cut off the Keystone XL pipeline, again, running from Alberta to America. I was selling oil on that day for $30 a barrel on the spot exchange, as you know. That day it went to $130 a barrel. When that happened, I knew what Biden was up to, or the communists are up to. As soon as Biden cut off the Keystone, oil went from 30 to 130 a barrel. Immediately, I knew what he was doing. They're crushing the poor and middle class. Guys like me get richer. So, you sell oil from $30, also getting 130. I almost voted for Biden after that one. I said, thank you, Joe. But then I realized what he's doing. He's going to crush the poor and middle class, and that sets us up for revolution. As interest rates kept going down, we kept borrowing out the equity, which was, so now we could be in trouble also. The good thing is our income far exceeds our liabilities, so we can still afford to refinance, get new loans. But if, as Andy Schectman says, that the repo markets went to reverse repo, in other words, they won't give out loans anymore. There'll be runs on the bank, there'll be bail-ins, not bailouts, and the whole economy crashes. If the bonds that all the banks are holding go upside down, and so that's what happens when Powell raised interest rates, those bonds are holding got toasted. That's my concern. It's just basic finance. If you have a bond at 5%, but suddenly bonds are now 10%, your 5% bonds are not worth anything. How many jobs did Microsoft let go of? How many jobs did Tesla let go of? You know what I mean? What's happening? Just watch the facts, don't listen to the news.